Right now, the problem at stake is not a paralysis of analysis. It's a paralysis of fear. People don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and they're fearful that if they try something, they'll have their hand slapped.
This is Impact Point, where we cut through the noise and get to the point. And here are your hosts, Neelima Grover and Rob Jenkins.
So, hi, Rob.
Hi, Neelima.
Yeah, so, you've been at the front end of the U.S. foreign assistance industry, and you've seen lots of changes. How would you characterize the present moment?
How would I not characterize it? I think I used to talk about at least the peace building stability part of USAID and foreign assistance programming as sort of defined epochs or eras. You had the post-Cold War era, sort of the Balkans, Rwanda, Angola, relatively small wars coming to conclusion, and then you go in and do post-conflict programming. That stopped with the next era, which was post-9/11, Afghanistan, Iraq, large amounts of money, many, many boots on the ground, not just American boots, but NATO allies and others. That ended with the post-Benghazi era, which few boots on the ground, doing programming in places like Syria and Yemen, where we just weren't putting people in the ground in Libya. Those were all defined epochs, and evolution moves forward. Now we're in a whole new place. 66 million years ago, an asteroid the size of Manhattan slammed into the Earth. It changed everything. Firestorms, earthquakes, tsunamis spread across the globe, and 75% of species went extinct. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but that's what's happening right now in foreign assistance. We don't know what's going on. We're still in the firestorm, but those tsunamis have spread to all the donors around the world, and you're going to have a lot of extinctions. We've already seen that. Now, you don't want to take an analogy too far, but it was the dinosaurs who died. So who is going to survive and who is going to get through this phase? Because we don't know what the next phase is yet. It's still chaotic right now. But we have to be agile. We have to be resilient. We have to be innovative and creative, because we don't know what the future holds, but we can't wait for the future to drop in on us.
So what you're saying is that we're in a moment of chaos right now.
We're in a moment of chaos. And if you look at Dave Snowden's Cynefin framework, when you go from complexity into chaos, what you have to do is act, then you sense, and then you respond. You can't wait to figure out what's going on or you'll die. Use the analogy you want. If you're stuck in a fire, you don't stop and wait for the fire to go out before you get outside of the house. You get moving. If you find yourself on a ship in a storm, you turn the power up because you want to be an agent in that chaos. If you wait until things are clear, you're not going to make it.
Yeah. And I think, with the dissolution of USAID and the U.S. taking a back seat in conflict and fragile states, which is an area that you have led for years and years and years, there's a big void right now. So what do you think the opportunity is, and what should those of us who have been doing this work for a long time be doing at this point in time?
Well, there is great opportunity, but let's start with the void. In Syria right now, the United States is missing a huge opportunity. What happened in Syria isn't just a once in a generational change. It's a once in 50 years change. Nobody thought that Assad was going to fall when he fell. Even HTS and those who were trying to make him fall had no idea they were going to be able to do that. They were going after Aleppo, walked into Aleppo almost without any fighting and said, let's go to Damascus. So no one foresaw that. And no one foresaw the opportunity that we now have sitting in front of us. But the sand is going to slip through our fingers if we don't hurry up. The administration right now is not responding with anything but announcements of big business deals. Now, the British Empire used to lead with business. It got them somewhere, but it's a different century now. And if you don't help shore up the opportunity that is there, we could have a stable Syria with Hezbollah on its back feet. If we have an opportunity in Lebanon we've never had before, and the entire Middle East If Gaza, God bless Gaza, if Gaza could be fixed, there's huge opportunity. Right now, the United States government is largely sitting back and just watching things happen. So what does that mean for implementers? For implementers, you find others, perhaps, that can help you run programs. Those are few right now because everyone is taking the United States lead and sitting back and not doing a whole lot. But for implementers, it is how do you survive this moment? Because the moment will change. There will be a new reality. I firmly believe foreign assistance is not dead. But what does it look like? We don't know. So for implementers, it is how do you stay alive? How do you be agile? How do you make sure that you're ready when the opportunity arises? And it could arrive tomorrow. It could be in 3 years. There will be new opportunity, but you have to be around by then to take advantage of it. That's the trick. That's what everyone's scrambling. Everyone's trying to figure out what to do. That's the trick. Figure out what to do without knowing the roadmap. There is no map. We don't know what the rules are anymore. We're seeing contracts being modified in ways we never thought that you could modify a contract like that. But contract officers are now few and far between. If you have a toehold somewhere, keep that toehold. If you have existing mechanisms, use those mechanisms, challenge the donor to stretch those in new ways, innovate, innovate, innovate. Look around. This is a moment of opportunity. In many ways, it's a tabula rasa. People have erased the past. We can bemoan that. We can be sad about it. We can cry about it, or we can just say, we're now where we are now. We need to act, be creative, come together. You've already seen combinations of different groups that never worked together or looking at how they can help each other. It's all in self-interest. That's fine. Just try to be creative and try to hold on, try to pivot. And if you have to pivot once or pivot twice or pivot 3 times, at least you're still pivoting. Sitting there with the old models in a new environment is not going to get anywhere for anyone.
Yeah. And we have certainly experienced that firsthand, at Q2IMPACT, where we have also lost a big part of our portfolio and we are pivoting. So that's really good advice, Rob. But the question is, where is the money coming from? You talk about there's a big opportunity. You talk about Syria. You talk about these other things with the big void left by USAID. USAID was a big funder. Okay, everybody is retracting. So how should these firms survive when there is who's going to write the checks?
Well, Neelima, I thought you were only going to ask me easy questions. Where is the money going to come from is a huge question because there's money there. Now, trying to track what's happening with the foreign assistance budget, there's been one round of official rescissions. There's now the pocket rescission that's supposed to maybe go through. By the end of the fiscal year, there's another $7 billion that's been approved by Congress, but no one knows how it's going to be spent. Is it going to be spent? Is it going to come out of State Department? I don't think that's logistically possible with the way that aid has been destroyed and State Department is in no way able to pick up the pace right now. So don't look to the US government as your survival mechanism is what would my advice be. That doesn't mean forget about the US government, but you've got to look to other donors. You've got to look wherever you can. Don't look to philanthropy. Philanthropy is screaming that everyone's now turning and saying that foundations are going to be able to fill the void. Foundations can't fill the void. And some of them have changed their business model. They now are going from 5 to a whopping 6% of spending what they have every year. That's their business model. Unless they change it and decide they don't want to stick around for another 100 years, they're going to have to spend some more money. Well, they up 5 to 6% to 10%, that's still not going to fill the gap. So you have to look at other markets, look at adjacent markets, look at things over the horizon, look at other donors, other countries that are not traditionally donors. Go to state governments. A lot of what USAID implementing partners can do is just as applicable domestically as it was internationally. With what's happening to FEMA, what's happening with federal dollars not going to states, I think there's great opportunity there as states start to scramble and figure out what to do. That doesn't mean an international organization that's been working only in the international space has to now become a purely domestic organization. but it's about broadening the portfolio, broadening that list of potential clients, broadening that list of potential targets. Find opportunity where you can, seize that opportunity, and see what you can do in this environment until it becomes a little more clear. Who knows what's going to happen with the budget? But FY26 is right upon us. If you look at what both the House and the Senate have for the bills for FY26, it's less than it was in the past, but it's a significant amount of money, billions of dollars that should be spent somewhere. Now, this might be settled in the Supreme Court. It might be that they find the federal government doesn't have to spend what Congress has given them. But most likely there'll be a continuing resolution. A continuing resolution will have many billions of dollars. They're now sitting with State Department largely, and State Department doesn't have the mechanisms in place, the experience, or even the logistics, the systems to move that money. So there will be money there. A question is that money going to be made available? And how is it going to be made available? Will things be competed? Will things be sole sourced? We hear that there is a feeling in the White House that large contractors are over and they want to go to new partners. Do they have particular partners in mind when they say that? I don't know. So it's not an easy answer, but as long as there is funding on the table, I think everyone should be trying to figure out how do we access that funding and figuring out what no one knows, what will the new rules of the road be?
And how long do you think it will be before we will know?
In Washington, my experience has been everyone thinks that things are going to happen faster and be resolved faster and sooner than they are. Now, the exception that proves the rule is I don't think anyone thought USAID would be destroyed as fast as it was destroyed. But how are things going to be rebuilt? I think we are in for a global winter. If to go back to an asteroid mass extinction event anecdote, it's going to be chilly for a long time. I'm looking at years. If I was a small business owner, I would be, how do I stay alive? Not until the next fiscal year, not to the midterms. It takes a lot longer to rebuild something than it takes to destroy something. So I don't think we're going to have clear business models. I don't think we're going to have a clear way forward for at least 3 years. I think it's going to take a long time. I know some are planning on 6-year time frame, saying we'll take losses for 6 years as long as we can stay alive. And then there's the whole, no one knows how much of the back pay is going to be made apparent. There's a lot of companies in this town and around the world that are owed a lot of money. They're now the legacy USAID organization. A lot of people aren't talking about this. They're bringing more people back into USAID for the legacy organization. They're looking to hire a lot of contractors just to settle the debts, just to settle the bills, just to work on people's retirements. That timeline is going to be maybe 2 years. So if you're an organization that is owed money by the federal government, you don't know if you're going to get that next month, if you're going to get that in 2027, if you're going to have to sue to get that. So one should be in for the long haul, I think.
Well, that's really chilling outlook, Rob, especially for companies like mine that are small businesses that have been doing this for a long time. Let me ask you a different question. There is a big void right now with the U.S. Not being in fragile countries. And there's been lots of lessons learned from the past. We have done lots of evaluations for OTI. You have been at the forefront of doing this. What do you see that as data-driven, scalable solutions that the private sector should consider building, or the U.S. government should reconsider building as part of the rebuilding efforts? So if you were in charge, what would you do if you were in the government? And what do you think private sector firms should be thinking about doing?
Two-word phrases to keep in mind. One is adaptive management and one is a systems approach. over the last several decades, we've seen USAID and other donors, but led by USAID, get into an increasingly increasingly fragmented approach to foreign assistance. New sectors kept coming up. On the one hand, you have humanitarian assistance rising till it got to almost over a third of USAID's budget, because we weren't dealing with the reasons that we needed humanitarian assistance. We weren't fixing the systems. So if you pull PEPFAR out, if you pull all that great life-saving work the United States has done with health, with education, suddenly those systems collapse because we weren't working on the systems. We were working in parallel tracks. And if you looked at, in the end of last year, if you were to look at a USAID mission strategy, it would be many, many different things, doing good work, but not doing it holistically, sometimes at odds with each other. We have a new way to do things right now. We have an opportunity, and one would be to take a systems approach. Don't try to look at each little problem. Look at the problem set and figure out how to help countries be more resilient and solve the problems, not the symptoms. That's one. Two, adaptive management. Now, a lot of people in USAID and other donors have been trying this for years, which is, it goes along with systems approaches. Don't come in with the answer. Come in with trust that you build with your local partner. Go local, start something, see what happens, scale up what works, scale down what doesn't work. To do that, one of the problems that a lot of people don't like doing that is, one, you can't say exactly what you're going to do when you start. You're going to say, we're going to figure it out as we go along, and we might pivot halfway through, one half through. But you need a lot of information to do that, because if you're dealing with systems, like it or not, you're dealing with politics. People are political animals, and all politics are local. So I can't have a program for Pakistan. I need to have a program for each part of Pakistan. I need to get into northern Benin and figure out what is happening in one district, what is happening in another district. That used to be very hard to scale up because you have so many needs for info and data on a local level. But now, with all the things that AI brings, with all the technological revolution that we're living through right now, you can now do sensing, you can now do polling using cell phones, and you can now do data aggregation and use algorithms to get a lot more information in real time that you can then use to change programming on the dime. You can do things that we never thought we could do before. It's not sitting in Washington trying to come up with a solution. It's not sitting in Maputo trying to figure out what to do in northern Mozambique. It's being able to use technology and trust relationships to figure out what each local place needs most, and having an adaptive programming model that allows you to then assert the assistance into that problem set. And harnessing technology to do that opens up an entire new realm of possibilities. This is a moment in time that is harsh. It's a little bit scary, if not very scary, but it also is hugely, it's open to so much opportunity to two new things. Innovation, though, is not going to come from the donor. It never has. Innovation is going to come from the implementers. Innovation is going to come from the private sector. It doesn't have to be private companies. It's going to be NGOs. But that is where the innovation is going to come from. Over the last few years, I saw USAID, but I would say US government in particular, became more and more risk averse. They would only go with tried and true methodologies. They would not pick a contractor who had a new way of doing business, because we don't do it that way. And where has that gotten us? Where has that gotten us? We were celebrating 63 years of USAID, and you picked the country, Honduras. Why were we doing agriculture programs in Honduras for 63 years? Maybe they weren't working. We weren't taking a systemic approach, and we weren't innovating. So if anyone's waiting for the US government to be the source of innovation, you're going to wait a long, long time. But government needs to open up its ability to take in new ideas, to take some risks, to try some new methodologies. Not all of them are going to work. But I'm not a big investor. I don't know a lot about investing, but I know if you don't take a risk, you don't make any profit. If we want to succeed, we're going to have to try new things, and that's going to have to come out of the private sector.
So that is really exciting. Okay, so this is an opportunity that we have never had before, because we are basically starting and building something for the ground up, from the ground up. Adaptive management, systems thinking. You're speaking my language, Rob, here. But my question is, let's say you were at the State Department. Let's say you were in government. Okay, these approaches, innovation and systems thinking, and the incentives to do that. What would you be doing at the State Department? Because the government inherently is risk averse, right? So how would you capitalize on the moment, and what advice would you give the State Department, the Trump administration, so that we can really bring those approaches in the new version of the work that we're going to be doing to bring in these ideas?
Well, before I say what I would be doing at State Department, let's take a look at what's happening at State Department right now, at least from what I'm hearing from friends and colleagues. We used to talk about the paralysis of analysis, both at USAID, but also at State Department. Before we decide what to do, we're going to study this problem for so long and look at all the negative consequences that could come out that we would miss the moment often. Most of the sins committed by USAID and State Department were not sins of commission, they were sins of omission. They just took too long to decide what to do. Right now, the problem at State is not a paralysis of analysis. It's a paralysis of fear. People don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and they're fearful that if they try something, they'll have their hand slapped. And that's not just folks that have worked at State Department for a long time. Even political appointees don't know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. They don't know if they're allowed to take a chance, if they're allowed to spend any money, if they will get in trouble if they propose something. So first, you have to remove that environment. It's not only risk averse, it's just no risk. That's not going to get us to where we have to be as a country, but also for those individuals who are trying to do their jobs. They can't sit all day waiting to get direction because direction's not coming. So someone at some point in a better world, and maybe this will come sooner rather than later, will realize if they do want foreign assistance, I truly believe that Congress and that our government wants foreign assistance to continue, differently, but to continue, they're going to have to allow people to start making decisions and ideally taking risks and doing things in a different way. Now, they're going to have to do things in a different way anyway. You can't take USAID, eliminate it, take only 6% of the staff and move them into State Department, and then say, State Department, here's an extra $20+ billion that you're now going to implement with less staff than you had before. They've had their rifts. They've had people leave. People are worried about an impending rift. We've all heard people say for years, you have to do more with less. And we all know that's bullshit. You can't do more with less. It's just physics. Sometimes you can find an efficiency here. Sometimes that you can't do what USAID was doing by saying, we're just going to have what used to be PRM send the DART teams out. Not going to work. You can't say to the Africa Bureau at State Department, you're now going to have all these billions of dollars. They're going to be run out of embassies when the embassies don't have any additional resources. They just lost the entire USAID mission. They don't have any additional resources to do it. This is a change management moment if I've ever seen one. State Department does not have a change management mentality. They don't see the need of what a corporate sector person would come in and say, I need some people who are experts in change management and organizational development. I needed to come in here. I need them to help map out what we're going to do. I need them to do a SWOT analysis. All the things that we're very comfortable with at USAID, State Department doesn't think that way. They need to start thinking that way. They need to, and they can't hire anyone. There's a hiring freeze. They're going to have to, I think, if they want this to work, reach out to private partners who are experts at these things and who can help them sort out the mess that they're in. There will need to be a redesign of the current design. Now, I know that is what State Department's now designed to do. We haven't even seen if it's going to work or not. Let me take a simple bet. It's not going to work. It's certainly not going to work very well. There'll have to be a repositioning, a redesign of the design, and that's not going to be coming out of the minds of the people that are currently at State Department. They're going to need outside help. They're going to need outside experts to help them rebuild what has been killed.
Very well said, Rob. I think this is a real opportunity for private sector firms like ours that have been doing this for years to support the State Department as they go through this moment in time. And change is not an easy thing for anyone. But I really hope that they bring the right people in to help them with this exercise. You talk a little bit about doing more with less, okay, and with Doge and with the advent of AI, this is a question that's on everyone's mind. And so let me ask you, what do you think is the role of AI in conflict prevention? And how can the private sector help with innovation and use of AI, especially as we try and leverage technology and the power of technology and use that to rebuild?
It's not just using ChatGPT to write that memo that you used to spend a few hours having to write at State Department. And they've been told, use AI for things. When you take it to the field, when you take it to what can we use, how do we harness the ability to, one, gather more information using social media. You don't have to do a poll anymore. You can scrape social media and find out what people in Mali are talking about today, different from last week. And you can chart that. And you can't do that with people, but you can do it with the technology. You can do it with AI. There are all kinds of things we dreamt of before that now are actually possible for sensing, for doing what we used in the old days call polling. You don't need to poll anymore. You can just see what are people talking about and what are people thinking about and who do they trust and who don't they trust. Walking away from the programming that state and USAID was doing about countering disinformation, we've walked away from that. We need to go back into that in a huge way. But it's not going to be a bunch of analysts sitting somewhere in the Harry Truman building. It's going to be some smart contractors somewhere who have figured out algorithms that can help feed that real-time data with no lag. We're talking real-time data that goes right into the policymaking apparatus. That, to me, is just truly exciting. When we were running programs 15 years ago in a place like Iraq, trying to figure out in Anbar province, what are people saying about the United States? What are people saying about the Iraqi government? That was hard to do. We don't have to ask them anymore. We can figure it out because they're all putting it out there on social media. And that is how you can use AI to help inform real life decisions for programming, but also for policymakers.
Yeah. Well, at Q2 Impact, we have created our tool called Q2 Maverick, which takes the 27 years of data in monitoring and evaluation of USAID and other foreign assistance programs, including a lot of programs in conflict-prone countries. And I think the real exciting piece of that is the ability to predict, to use that data and generate new knowledge about where we can expect conflict, what kind of conflict, what factions of the population are going to be impacted. How do we design programs so that we can, impact specific segments of the population or specific things, and in a way that we have never, ever, ever dreamt of doing before. And so that is what I see as the real game changer here, is that we have this sort of technology now available at our fingertips. And so do you see a real role for private sector here to innovate and offer this in a different way as we rebuild in this area going forward?
Absolutely. So prevention should be the name of the game. For many years, folks inside government were trying to get people to put more resources into prevention. Take the study that you want. Either $1 saves you 16. On some studies now it's $1 saves you $117 if you prevent the conflict. Having to mop it up later, having to do humanitarian assistance for generations, or you can try to do something before there's conflict. The Global Fragility Act was Congress coming together saying, okay, government, you're not doing it on your own. We're going to force you to do this. Starting to put small amounts of resources. Now, $150 million a year is not small to you or me, but it's small when you look at government resources around the world. But putting it into prevention. Now, it's very hard to make an argument that I'm going to prevent something, because that's not what people respond to on Capitol Hill. They respond to the problem at hand. But with a predictive capability, a predictive analysis that you can then say, in these following 3 places, there is an X percentage based on real data, based on history, based on the dynamics of this place, we have an X percent chance that things are going to blow up. Now is the time to get in there with adaptive management and real systems-based approaches programming. That is great. Now, that is going to have to come from the private sector. Government will never do that. 20 years from now, we'll be sitting there, still be trying to decide which technology they want to go for. Right now, government has got to open up. They've got to open up the aperture. They've got to be open to new ideas. They have created an environment that new ideas are needed. Now they have to listen to them, and the private sector has to produce them and present them.
Okay, thank you. So, Rob, what are your 3 takeaways or impact points for today's episode?
Reduce it to 3, huh? I might have more than 3. Some for implementing partners or potential implementing partners, private sector, and some for government. For the implementing partners, it's innovation. It is about innovation. The old is dead. Find the new. We don't know what the environment's going to be, but find who you are now and set yourself up to be ready when the opportunities present themselves. So it's all going to be about agility. Be agile, take risks. If you're a big firm and you have it, take a big bet. If you're a small firm and you can't take a big bet, take some small bets. Don't put everything into one basket, because you don't know which basket's going to get you where you need to go, but you need to be moving forward. You need to be taking bets, and you need to harness the innovation that is brought around right now, brought by the information technology boom, AI, and harness new inventions to fuel your own innovation in this space. For government, everyone would like foreign assistance to be more in line with U.S. foreign policy. Everyone would. So give us a policy. A bumper sticker is not a policy. If you want foreign assistance to be the cutting edge of U.S. foreign policy, you can't put a cutting edge on a butter knife. We need to know, not an Africa policy. We need 53 different policies for the countries in Africa. You've got to unleash, take away the harness that you have on your ambassadors and your embassies right now. Let them figure out what needs to be done. 2, State Department is going to have to rebuild what this administration killed. You don't have to rebuild USAID. USAID is not coming back, but you can't expect to have some magical way of doing foreign assistance that's effective in any way, even if it's transactional and just supporting your deals. You've got to rebuild some apparatus within State Department that can actually manage the money in a way that is smart and it takes advantage of these opportunities that we have in front of us right now. So a little bit for people to think about outside of government, few things, impact points to think about inside government. At the end of the day, this is a sad moment for the foreign assistance family, for the institutions, and for our industry. I'm not blowing smoke, though. It is filled with opportunity. If we can get through this global winter, and if one can be agile and if one can be around to seize the opportunities as they present themselves. So 75% extinction rate, who's going to be the 25? It's going to be the agile ones.
Thank you so much, Rob, for such an insightful conversation. Really enjoyed it. Please follow us and comment at www.q2impact.com and engage with us on social media and LinkedIn. Thank you.